I would say,
isn't that
however,
what you're telling me?
that
That's not what you saw. Now, don't get off the subject on me now. You're telling me that's not what you saw.
I'm telling you that it is difficult for the federal government to adequately address the issue of anti-Semitism.
Are you telling me the
resources.
Columbia administration and the faculty was supportive of the Jewish community?
I think that they are trying to find...
You need to stop dipping into your ketamine stash.
Into what? Excuse me?
Welcome back to American Mindset, the channel where we defend freedom, honor our values, and call out the nonsense that threatens the principles this great nation was built on.
Today, we're diving into a fiery exchange that happened during a Senate hearing, where Senator John Kennedy absolutely grilled witnesses about anti-Semitism on college campuses. Let me tell you, this one is a jaw-dropper. I'll give you my take as a proud patriot who believes in free speech, accountability, and protecting American values. So, buckle up because it's going to get real. Let's watch the video.
Society perspective. How do we do this as a society to actually eradicate anti-Semitism? And I think that is the larger question rather than isolated on the FBI.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you all for being here. Ms. Solomon, I want to be sure I understand your testimony. Did I understand you to testify that anti-Semitism is worse under the Trump administration?
Senator, thank you for your question.
You don't have to thank me. Okay. Your best thanks is to answer.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you that anti-Semitism has been rising, especially since the 2017
but has the
Charlottesville
Trump administration
attack.
caused that? Is that your testimony?
I wouldn't say the Trump administration has caused anti-Semitism. Has there been an increase since Trump has entered office? Yes.
Do you see a causal connection there?
Yes.
Why?
Trump has highlighted and platformed neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
Okay. Mr. I can't see that far.
Racklin.
Mr. Racklin, I understood you to say that in answer to Senator Durbin's question, the spending reductions, reducing the federal budget would increase anti-Semitism. Isn't that what you said?
No, I did not. I said that the constant threats to cut money to the Office for Civil Rights and the Department of Education prevents the federal government from adequately investigating anti-Semitism and other hate crimes on college campuses.
So you think one way to stop anti-Semitism is to give people more money? Is that right?
I think one of the ways is to actually fund people that are actually designed to investigate anti-Semitism on college campuses.
What's there to investigate? We see it.
We saw
it. Did you watch television? Did you see what happened at Columbia?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was clear to me that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believed passionately in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews. That's what I saw. Isn't that what you saw?
I saw.
Isn't that what you saw?
I saw protesters against the war in Gaza and them using some anti-Semitic slogans and thoughts. I would say, however, that it's hard.
Isn't that what you're telling me? That's not what you saw. Now, don't get off the subject on me now. You're telling me that's not what you saw.
I'm telling you that it is difficult for the federal government to adequately address the issue of anti-Semitism.
Are you telling me the Columbia administration and the faculty was supportive of the Jewish community?
I think that they are trying to find...
You need to stop dipping into your ketamine stash.
Into what? Excuse me?
Now, if we're going to solve this problem, we need to talk about it. And it wasn't just at Columbia. It was at Berkeley. It was at UCLA. It was at Barnard. And Columbia has a history of discriminating against Jewish people. They used to refuse to let Jewish students come to their university. Now, you can try to bubble wrap this, but that's what I saw. If you want to stop a lot of the anti-Semitism, maybe we need to stop teaching kids to be anti-Semitic.
Sir, I would relish that opportunity.
Let me ask you a question, Ms. Kohab. Did I say that right?
Kohab.
Do you think it's possible to feel compassion for the Palestinian people without hating Jews?
Absolutely.
Would you elaborate on that? Because it looks to me like many of our Ivy League universities, they weren't the only ones. Some universities handled it well. Vanderbilt, University of Chicago, Tulane. But it looks like the administration was teaching kids you got to pick a side. You either have to hate Jews or you have to be for Hamas. You can't be. There's no middle ground. Tell me what you saw. You've written a book about it. Maybe Mr. Rockland ought to read it.
Just because we are testifying, I wrote a chapter in the anthology Young Zionist Voices about what's happening on college campuses, and my book is coming soon, so look out for that.
Good plug, but
so let me answer your question.
Can you feel compassion for the Palestinian people and not hate Jews?
Absolutely. I think that what I've seen on college campuses is a pushing of a Marxist framing of the way that you see the world. And this is not only in liberal studies departments. I've taken dance classes, I've taken creative writing classes, where your final project is literally called The Political is Personal. And what they're teaching you on college campuses is that the political is personal and that everything should be personalized. And there's a global north, a global south, a global right, and a global wrong. And the issue with college campuses and what's happening right now in the United States is that we're allowing ideology to drive violence. A society that says that you can commit violent acts based on your ideology because your ideology is correct is a society that's eroding, and that's what I see on college campuses. Now, you asked if I could feel Palestinian peoplehood, right? If I could feel compassion for the Palestinian people. Absolutely. And every night when I go to bed, yes, I pray for the Jewish people, but I also pray for the Palestinian people, for God to send them leaders that actually care more about their safety. Leaders that put their people's safety in order to propel an ideology at risk aren't leaders. If you look at Hamas, they tout what happened after October 7th up until this day as a victory. How can you lie in rubble after thousands of your people have died and call that a victory? So what I see that has to happen on college campuses is de-radicalization. Until you admit that there's a radical ideology happening on a college campus, you cannot fight it. You cannot fight it.
Senator Arano, hey, I know there's a lot of strong feelings in here. We all have them, but each member only has 5 minutes, and it just takes time away from their 5 minutes if you really want to get all these facts out. Ms. Arano.
First off, Senator Kennedy asked him, Solomon, if anti-Semitism increased under former President Trump. Now Solomon did admit there's been a rise since 2017. But here's where it gets ridiculous. He claimed there's a causal connection because Trump allegedly platformed neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Excuse me? Let's get something straight. Trump was one of the most pro-Israel presidents in U.S. history. Remember the Abraham Accords? That was his administration's groundbreaking effort to bring peace to the Middle East. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, something other presidents promised but never delivered. And yet, the left blames him for anti-Semitism. It's absurd. Here's the truth. Anti-Semitism has been brewing for years, and it's coming from the radical left, not conservatives. These college campuses, which are hotbeds of leftist ideology, are where it's really exploding. The witnesses should have been pointing fingers at the woke academic elites who enable this nonsense, not at Trump. Then we had another witness, Mr. Racklin, arguing that federal budget cuts to the Office for Civil Rights are somehow responsible for anti-Semitism. Folks, this is the same tired argument we hear all the time. Give us more money, and we'll fix the problem. But Kennedy wasn't having any of it. He asked, what's there to investigate? We see it. Did you watch TV? Did you see what happened at Columbia? He's right. You don't need millions in taxpayer dollars to figure out what's happening. It's out in plain sight. Anti-Semitic protests, chants of from the river to the sea, and open hatred of Jews are happening right now on campuses like Columbia, Berkeley, and UCLA. Throwing more taxpayer money at ineffective bureaucracies isn't going to solve the problem. What we need is accountability. These universities need to clean house, fire professors who spew hate, expel students who incite violence, and stop allowing radical ideologies to flourish under the guise of academic freedom. Kennedy didn't hold back when talking about Columbia University. He slammed them for their hypocrisy, saying they preach diversity, equity, and inclusion, while allowing anti-Semitism to thrive. He even pointed out Columbia's shameful history of discriminating against Jewish students. And he's spot on. The woke mob loves to virtue signal about being inclusive, but their so-called inclusivity stops when it comes to Jewish students or anyone who supports Israel. They've created an environment where it's not only acceptable, but encouraged to hate Jews and side with groups like Hamas. That's not inclusivity. That's pure hatred disguised as social justice. And when Kennedy asked Racklin if the Columbia administration was supportive of the Jewish community, all Racklin could do was dodge the question. Why? Because the answer is obvious. No, they're not supportive. If they were, they wouldn't let this happen. Kennedy also brought up a fantastic point about how universities are forcing students to pick sides. You either hate Jews or you support Hamas. There's no middle ground. This is the kind of black and white, radical thinking that's tearing our society apart. One of the witnesses, Johanna Gove, hit the nail on the head when she talked about how Marxist ideology is driving this insanity. She said college campuses are teaching students that the political is personal and pushing a worldview that pits the so-called global north against the global south. It's classic Marxism: divide people into oppressors and oppressed, and then justify violence in the name of ideology. This is what's poisoning our young people. Instead of teaching them critical thinking, universities are indoctrinating them with radical leftist propaganda. And it's not just happening in liberal arts classes. Gove mentioned taking a creative writing class where the final project was political. A creative writing class. They're injecting politics into every subject, and it's got to stop. Kennedy asked a powerful question. Can you feel compassion for the Palestinian people without hating Jews? And Gove answered beautifully, saying yes, absolutely. She even talked about praying for both the Jewish and Palestinian people every night. That's the kind of leadership we need, acknowledging the humanity on both sides without resorting to hatred. But here's the catch. Compassion doesn't mean supporting Hamas. It doesn't mean excusing terrorism. And it doesn't mean turning a blind eye to the anti-Semitism happening in our own backyard. Compassion and accountability can coexist, and it's time we demand both from our universities and leaders. Gove also made an important point about de-radicalization. She said colleges need to admit there's a radical ideology driving this violence before they can fix it. She's absolutely right. You can't solve a problem you refuse to acknowledge. But let's be real. Do we think these woke universities are going to admit they've created a monster? Not unless we force them to. And that's where we come in. Parents, alumni, donors, and taxpayers. We gotta hold these institutions accountable. Stop sending your kids to these indoctrination factories. Stop donating to schools that promote hate. And demand that your tax dollars stop funding this madness. Look, folks, this hearing was a wake-up call. Senator Kennedy showed us just how deep the rot goes on our college campuses. Anti-Semitism isn't just a fringe problem anymore. It's mainstream on the left, and it's being enabled by our universities. It's time to fight back. We need to stand up for free speech, demand accountability, and push back against the radical ideologies poisoning our youth. And as patriots, we have a duty to protect the principles this country was founded on: freedom, equality, and respect for all people, regardless of race or religion. If you agree with what I've said here today, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Rising Daily, and share this video with your friends. Together, we can wake up more Americans to what's really happening. Thanks for watching, and as always, God bless you, and God bless America.